In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your front strut and spring assembly on your Ford Focus. It's located behind your front wheel. Using a 19mm socket, we're going to remove our wheel. Remove the screen from your cowl. I'm using a trim tool to do that, and just pull. Remove your bolt with a 10mm socket. Set it aside. Using a T27, we're going to take out this Torx bolt. Do the same on the other side. Move your push pin. You may need a small screwdriver to take out the center part and then pull it out. Now I'm continuing. I'm going to have a few more push pins along the edge. So you take out that center piece and the whole thing should come out. Pull that out. Now we're going to take off this weather stripping. Set it aside. Now we're going to take out this underneath piece and leave this here. So you're going to pick it up and slide it out on that side. Pick it up and slide it out on this side. Remove it. Using a 32mm socket, we're going to remove our axle nut. Now we're going to remove our nut for our tie rod. I'm going to use a 50mm socket for that. I'm going to hit it right here with a sledgehammer. Use a small screwdriver, push in on that tab, and unplug your speed sensor. Take it out of its bracket thing, remove it from this bracket as well, and set it aside. Next, we're going to remove our bolt for our bracket for our brake hose. If you live in a place where there's a lot of salt, you're going to have rust. I did preemptively lubricate everything with some penetrating oil before beginning. That'll make your life easier if you do that. I'm going to use a 5mm Allen wrench and put it right up against this strut. And I'm going to loosen this nut and remove it. Remove the nut and the bracket, and you should be able to pull that right out. We're going to use a punch and put it in the center of this axle and just make sure it's free. You want to see that bounce come back, and that's how you know it's free enough. Usually, I'm going to also put some penetrating oil in there. After you put some penetrating oil in there, you can just work it in. The last thing you want to do is be fighting an axle while you're trying to drop your lower control arm down to get the strut out. So you want to make sure that's nice and loose. You use a 50mm socket to take out this bolt in the back to remove the strut. Remove your bolt. Tech tip, use an exhaust clamp for leverage. So you can put your pry bar on this and help pull down on the knuckle to get that strut out when the time comes. So I'm going to set this up now. So now I can stick my pry bar in here and pull down on the control arm. So you're going to want to separate right here so that this strut is loose enough from the knuckle that you can slide the knuckle off of it. So you can do two things. You could either use a cold chisel and separate it out and just hammer up until it separates out. Or you can use a tool like this, where you just put it in there. This is a strut tool. And you just turn it so that it separates this space a little, makes it a little wider. I'm going to use this tool because I like to leave it there when I'm dropping that knuckle down. Keeps it separated. Sometimes these knuckles are like bounce back. That seems to be creating a bigger space. So now I'm going to get my giant pry bar and I'm going to pull down on this and hopefully get some movement. So you're going to push down on that. If you get no movement, you're going to use a hammer as well. We're almost out. So at this point, when you got your strut hanging like that, I think it's a good idea if you're going to keep your brakes intact. You can take the brakes off if you want, but I like to keep them intact if less is best. So use a bungee cord just to make sure this hose doesn't get overextended, and turn your wheel to the left. Now you're going to get your axle out. Ours has been a little bit stubborn. You're going to have to keep tapping on that with your punch. And keep working at it to get it out. Once it's free enough, you don't want to pull it out of the transmission. So just make sure it's free. And when this comes down, it doesn't take the axle with it. Once you have your axle free enough, you're going to pull down on your pry bar where the control arm is and remove your strut from the knuckle. You may have to help your axle out completely to get it out and push it aside. And it may happen all at the same time, depending on your situation. I'm going to take this tool out now because we don't need it. Free that up. Make sure you have a good hand on your knuckle. And remove your axle. I'm going to set this off over here, and I have my bungee cord holding my brakes so my hose doesn't fall. I'm just going to make sure my axle doesn't come out by strapping it up a little bit. And now I'm going to go up top and we'll remove our bolts for our strut. Using a 13mm socket, we're going to remove these 3 bolts. I'm going to leave one hanging on a couple threads and then take out the other 2. I'm also propping my plastic piece up with a piece of magnet, actually. You can prop it up with whatever you want, or not prop it up at all. So let's begin. Okay, that's probably good for that one. And we'll take out these other two. So now our strut is not going to fall out because we have it hanging on a couple of threads, and that's going to allow us to grab a hold of it and take out this remaining bolt. So I have a good hand on my strut, and I'm going to take out this remaining bolt. Just be ready for when it is no longer attached. And you just take it right out. So on your strut, if you turn it all the way around, you're going to see it. This tab goes into here. So you have to make sure it's lined up right. So make sure that's all the way turned around, and this curved edge is towards the engine. You're going to want to use some blue thread locker. Just put a little bit on the thread on all 3 bolts before install. So you're going to line your bolt holes up, and you're going to hold your strut in place and get that bolt started. Once you get your bolt started, you're going to start the other 2. Snug these up, and then we'll be torquing them to 26 foot-pounds. I'm going to slowly bring the strut up using all 3 bolts. Once it's snug, we're going to get our torque wrench out. We'll check one more time. Now we're going to go below. You're going to want to clean your knuckle with a wire brush. Make sure there's nothing stopping that strut from sliding in. I still have my tool in here, keeping that spread. I've also cleaned off my axle with a wire brush to get whatever was keeping it from coming out from happening again. And I'm also going to clean the spline where the axle goes in. This has really got a lot of debris, which is probably why it was so hard to get out. So if you had the same problem, I recommend doing this. Now that you have your strut in place, you're going to remove your bungee from your axle. Now we're going to aim our axle into the knuckle. And we're going to pick up our knuckle. Try that again. You're going to push down on that control arm and aim your strut into the hole now. You may need a pry bar, you may not. You also want to make sure your axle's lined up with the spline. So hold on to your strut, get a pry bar if you need to, and push down on that control arm. Once you do that, now you can pull up on your control arm and get that started. At this point, it's a good time to check your axle. Make sure that's happy. engaged with that spline. The other thing that you have to pay attention to is lining up that notch in the back with the nub on the back of the strut. So as you push that strut into the knuckle, you're going to make sure it's lined up. So pull up on your pry bar, make sure you're in line, make sure your axle's happy. And when you're pulling up with that pry bar, make sure you're not pulling up on the rotor. You're pulling up on the lower control arm and guide that into place. Once it's lined up, you can push it up. So you know your strut's all the way in and where it belongs when you see this. So now we can put our strut bolt in the back and just get it started. Just snug that up for now, we'll torque it later. And we'll remove our bungee cord and start installing everything else. You can remove your bungee cord if you used one, or whatever you did use. I'm going to take my pry bar out and also remove my exhaust clamp. There we go. Remove that and save it for another time. We're going to attach our brake hose in the bracket, line up the bolt. Tighten this down. Snug it up and go a little bit more. We're going to plug in our speed sensor while we're here. Make sure your connector is this side up. Push it on and make sure you hear that click. I'm going to leave this out for now until we connect our sway bar. So now you're going to put your sway bar link in and put this bracket on and start your nut. Spin it on as far as it'll go. And we're going to use our Allen wrench and wrench to tighten it up. Once you start seeing that center start to spin, you're going to want to stop and put this in and just keep it from spinning. Snug that up for now and we'll torque it later. And put your speed sensor wire in there. Put your axle nut on. And we're going to tighten that down. Keep going until it's snug, and then we'll torque it later. So you want to turn your wheel to wherever this tie rod lives. You can also go by the other side and where the wheel is. Once your tie rod's lined up, you're going to push it up and in. Get your nut started. I'm going to zip that on. You want to torque your tie rod to 35 foot-pounds. Torque your sway bar length to 35 foot-pounds. You're going to torque your bolt back here for your strut to 59 foot-pounds and then go 180 degrees further, which is about a half a turn. So there's your 59. So I'm going to go a quarter and another quarter to make a half. We're going to torque this to 81 foot-pounds and then go a sixth of a turn. I have some lug nuts on my studs. So I don't damage these, because I have a pry bar in here, so it prevents the wheel from turning when I'm torquing it. There's the 81, and now we're going to go a little bit more. Right about there. Now you can remove your pry bar and your lug nuts. And we're going to go up top and finish putting back everything and torquing up top. Remove your prop and get ready to put in this lower piece. Make sure this piece fits inside right here on both sides. Now let's start our bolts. This one goes here. I'm going to tighten that down. Do the same on the other side. Push this down and start our bolt over here. Tighten that down. Do the same on the other side. And now we can put our push pins in. Put the bottom part in first. Do the same on the rest. Now we're going to put our weather stripping on. I'm just going to feed it in, work your way down. Now we're going to slide these back. Make sure you put those flaps on this side and snap it down. Just make sure you are using the tabs on the underside. These go on the inside, and then this goes on top. Put your wheel on. And you're going to start your lug nuts by hand. Tighten them up. I usually go for the bottom one first and just hold it in. Walk the wheel on. Now we can torque them. Using a 19mm socket, we're going to torque our wheels to 100 foot-pounds. We're going to do that in a star-like pattern. Take your vehicle down to your local alignment shop and get an alignment.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.